Hey everybody, it's Pastor John with your Midweek Moment for this week. As was the case last week, I want to start with an announcement and a couple of updates. First thing I want to remind everybody is that we will be reopening for public worship this Sunday, February 6th, our usual time of 10 o'clock. I've been following the New York Times' COVID tracker, and cases in Litchfield County are down by almost 2/3 from their peak. And they've been declining steadily for the past 3 weeks. So clearly we are on the downward slope of the Omicron surge. So we think it's safe to reopen. So we will be doing that. Now, of course, we'll still be live streaming the service as well. So, if you're not comfortable coming back to church yet, or, if you get up in the morning and it's 3 degrees outside and it's just too darn cold, well, that's fine. Just tune into our YouTube channel at 10 o'clock and the service will be there for you. But if you have missed coming to church and you missed, sort of hanging out with your fellow church members, you will have the chance to do that this Sunday when we celebrate communion on February 6th. Next update is I want to tell everybody a little bit about my trip down to Pennsylvania to see Dad. I left off Sunday afternoon after the budget meeting. I came back yesterday afternoon, and Dad is doing extremely well. In fact, he's doing so well that I wouldn't even know he had a stroke if I didn't know that he had a stroke. He needs a walker to get around, but the guy's going to be 89 this year. So really, the visit went very well, had a good time, and I just want to take a moment to express my thanks to everyone who has been praying for Dad and for the family as we make our way through this, because clearly it's helping, because like I said, he's doing extremely well. Last update is a little bit of an update about the article I talked about last week. You might remember I talked about an article I read in The Guardian about the religious right and political and religious change here in America. And that article was sort of a summary of a larger academic article. And I contacted the author, Ruth Bronstein, who's a professor of sociology at UConn. And I asked her if I could just get a free copy of the article, because I could buy it from Oxford, but they wanted $27 for 24 hours access to it, which even by academic standards is kind of nuts. Well, she was kind enough to send along a PDF of the article, and here it is. I've read the whole thing. It's a really great article. I mean, if you're interested in sort of, political and religious change in America, this is something you might be interested in reading. Now, I will grant you, it's a heavy-duty academic article. It's 26 pages long, and it's got a bunch of charts and graphs and things, and it's got 6 pages of references at the end. But it's very well written, and it really gives you a great view of the topic. So if you'd be interested in reading this, let me know, and I'll contact Professor Bronstein and ask her if I can share it with other people. I can't imagine why she would say no, but I just, it is her work, so I'd like to give her the chance to say yes or no. So if you'd be interested in reading it, let me know, and then I'll check with Ruth. So those are the updates. So let me get on to the main program for today. I want to start with reading a little bit from it's a devotional. It's called A Year with C.S. Lewis. You might remember, well over a year and a half now, when we first started doing the eSpire online. I actually wrote an article about this book. And like all devotionals, it's not really a devotional in the sense that it has prayers and things like that. It's just there's a little quote from one of C.S. Lewis's books for every day of the year to sort of, inspire your thinking and things like that. And the one for February 2nd is a pretty good one. And I want to read just a little part of it and then talk about it. Lewis says, "For it is not so much for our time," "For it is not so much of our time and so much of our attention that God demands. It is not even all our time and all our attention. It is ourselves. For each of us, the Baptist's words are true. He must increase and I must decrease. He will be infinitely merciful to our repeated failures. But I know of no promise that he will accept a deliberate compromise." What Lewis is saying there, I think, is that what God expects from each and every one of us is dedication. That's what Jesus is referring to, I think, in the Great Commandment, where he says that we're supposed to love God with all of our heart, all of our mind, all of our soul, and all of our strength, that we are supposed to be dedicated to serving and to following God. Which, if you stop to think about it, shouldn't be too surprising, right? Because anything that's important, anything that is meaningful, if you stop to think about it, requires dedication. I suppose you wanted to take up a sport like tennis. You just slap the ball around in the backyard with a couple of friends, and you can call that playing tennis. But if you really want to be a good tennis player, if you really want to learn how to play the game, the only way to do that is to be dedicated to it, right? I mean, you got to spend hours and days playing tennis. Maybe you work out with a coach at the club a little bit, and you spend hours working on your forehand and your backhand and your drop shot and your lob, and you hit balls from one corner of the court to the other, and maybe at some point you start using that machine that just shoots randomly tennis balls at you all the time. And you put in the work and you show the dedication, and what you discover is that after time you get to become a pretty good tennis player, and after a little bit longer you get to be a really good tennis player because the dedication pays off. It's the same thing, I suppose, if you want to learn to play a musical instrument. Maybe you want to take up the guitar or the piano or the bagpipes or something like that. The only way to master a musical instrument is to be dedicated to playing it. That's why there's that great line that was attributed to the great violinist Isaac Stern. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice. Because that's the only way to do it. You've got to work at the instrument. You've got to learn how it functions and the strings and the keys or whatever it is your instrument has. And you just have to play and play and play and play and play. And just like playing tennis, if you practice the guitar or the clarinet or whatever it is, you show dedication to doing that work, you will eventually come to master the instrument. Or suppose you want to, you want to be a great baker. You can read all the books about baking that you want. There are all sorts of cookbooks about baking out there. There are thousands and thousands of them. And you can read all of them. You can be the greatest academic expert on baking ever, but still be a lousy baker. Because the only way to become a great baker is to be dedicated to actually baking. You got to bake pies, you've got to bake cookies, you've got to bake cakes and danishes and turnovers and all of that sort of stuff. And when you start, you have your successes and you have your failures. But the more you practice you put in, the more dedication you show, you discover that your failures become fewer and fewer, and your successes become more and more. Because just as with you learning to play a musical instrument or learning to play a sport, the dedication eventually pays off. That's why God asks for dedication from us. Not so much because God needs it, because we don't think God needs anything, but because we need it. We need to be dedicated to following and serving God, because that's the way we get the most out of our relationship. It's true for any relationship, right? The more you invest in the relationship, the more you get out of it. The more you're dedicated to a relationship with another person, the more you're going to enjoy that relationship, the more valuable that relationship is going to be, the more important that it's going to be. I mean, if you're not dedicated to a relationship, we all know that eventually the relationship just sort of withers and dies. And that's not what God wants for us. God wants us all to have a strong relationship with Him. That's why God wants us to show dedication to it. Not because God benefits from that, but because we benefit from that. Because if we want to be fully mature and fully effective Christians, if we want to be Christians who have that strong relationship to God, the only way to develop it is the only way to develop skills as a tennis player or as a musician or as a baker. You've got to be dedicated to it. And that's why God asks for dedication from us. Like I said, not because that dedication is good for God, but because ultimately that dedication is good for us.